I felt it was kind of difficult to connect with other families, other expat families in Nanjing. I've had some questions about this topic and I wanted to get into it. It is how I felt as a foreign mom in China. I feel like my feelings were pretty mixed about some different things. Sometimes as a foreign mom, I felt a little bit overwhelmed because not only were people noticing me in public because I look different from other people in China, but they were also noticing Sophia in public because she also looks different. And sometimes it's just not good to have attention and everybody looking at you. Sometimes it's just better to blend in with the crowd. Yeah, so things like that made me a little bit anxious. For the most part though, people were very kind, and they would always say how beautiful Sophia was, or want to talk to us in English, or be surprised that we speak Chinese. And yeah, people were pretty kind, so I was really thankful for that. So when we moved to China, I was really lucky because not only is my husband Chinese and was super helpful with the whole situation of raising kids there, or a kid there. I also have my mother-in-law who is Chinese and able to help me. She lives with us. So I had a lot of help and it made things a lot smoother and easier. So even with that help, I still felt a little overwhelmed being in China as a foreign mom, because I like to know exactly what my surroundings are, especially when I have Sophia. I like to know exactly how to go to the doctor, get medicine, dentist appointments, find a dentist, find a school or a kindergarten, be able to go shopping and buy things. So sometimes living in China, that can be a little bit difficult because my Mandarin may not be at a level where I'm able to figure out all those things on my own. But like anything, with time, it started to get easier. Plus, like I said, I had my mother-in-law to help me a lot with things. If there's something I needed, I could just translate it and ask her. So something that I really loved about being a foreign mom in China is just all of the kid-friendly activities and places. So basically, if you go to the mall, typically on the 3rd floor, maybe sometimes the 4th floor, it's an all kids floor. So you have all of your clothing and sneakers. You have lots of children's restaurants and health food stores. There's also different playgrounds that children can go to, or like play areas. And they're quite big. They have tons of stuff in there for kids to play with. So I think China does a really good job of being kid friendly and providing those types of activities for parents and children. So that's something I really loved. I also found the transportation really easy in China to bring kids to different places, because you can call luxury cabs. They're pretty cheap and clean and comfortable. That made it a lot easier to bring her out to places and go have fun. The hotels and resorts that we stayed at really cater to kids, so there's always tons of things for them to do, playgrounds and pools and farms for them to feed animals. There were things like making soy milk, gardening, and stuff like that. Yeah, those types of activities are always great to have when you're a mom and you're trying to keep your kid entertained, and I really love that type of stuff. So I felt it was kind of difficult to connect with other families, other expat families in Nanjing, just because I feel like there isn't a huge community, or at least not that I was a part of. I think also because for the last 2 and 3 years, people were afraid of getting sick and didn't really go out and make friends and be social and all of that. When we arrived in China, they had just opened up. Yeah, I felt it was a little bit difficult to make friends, but that could also be because I am introverted and I have a lot of social anxiety, so I'm not exactly like the most outgoing person either. But at the playgrounds, I did speak with some other Chinese moms or some of the grandmas that were there, the Chinese grandmas. They were super nice. So I think being a foreign mom in China was definitely a mix of a lot of emotions. We were super excited to be there. I love China. I think it's a really interesting country, and going to China meant that I had to continue learning Mandarin and become better at Mandarin Chinese, raise a family there, build a life there. It can be overwhelming. One thing that I did worry about while living in China was the healthcare system, just because I felt that as foreigners everything was kind of difficult. I just kind of felt when I went somewhere for like a health exam, it was just really hard to know what was going on, and also there's just a lot of steps to it. I felt like something that was so simple was turned into something that was so complicated all the time because of all of the extra steps to have like different health exams. And the hospital that I went to was always super packed. There was always a really long wait. But I mean, it's the same thing in Canada. It's a really long wait, even longer than in China. But the difference is that I can understand everything in Canada and I can communicate easily in Canada. So yeah, I think the biggest difficulty about being a foreign mom in China was just the communication, and that's on my part. Yeah, because I feel if you go to China, you should definitely learn Chinese and be able to communicate if you want to make your life easier. So something else that I also thought was a little bit overwhelming was looking for a kindergarten. There's just so many options, and within those options there's like all of these different rules depending on where your parents are from, if one of them's Chinese, if they're from a certain city. And also kindergartens are super expensive in China, especially international kindergartens. So you have to do a lot of research and, you know, speak with locals and understand the kindergarten, what they're teaching, if it's suitable for what you want your child to be learning for the first few years of their school, and all of that. And it can be super overwhelming, even for my husband Jung, who is, you know, a native Chinese and obviously is a native Chinese speaker, still found it overwhelming to look for kindergartens and really choose one that we thought was suitable. But we did end up moving away from China before we actually decided on one anyway. So overall, I thought being a foreign mom in China was at times overwhelming and made my anxiety pretty high, but as well I felt that China was really family friendly. We had a really great time. We had lots of little staycations in Nanjing and outside of Nanjing as well that were family friendly, and we just really loved it. And I guess if there's any piece of advice I could give for another foreign mom who may be going to China, it is to learn Chinese as much as you can, be familiar with the culture, try to make friends before you go there, like join some groups, maybe on WeChat, maybe on Instagram, and also I guess try to be more outgoing than what I was.